James runs a business called Tradie VA, and I've said to you already in this presentation that you need to get rid of the low skill, low fun tasks and systemize your business. And from what I've heard from James so far, that's exactly what his business does. James, would you like to share with us now?
Yeah, g'day, Glenn. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, nice to be here, guys. And geez, that was a really good bit of information there at the beginning, and I love that that profitability wheel you got. So the question being is, so when Glenn's hooked you up with the leadership skills, the strategy, you've got an awesome team behind you doing the delivery, and a really great pricing strategy. Now we've got to get a bit deeper into that those tasks he's talking about. So what does it take to run your business, and not just what does it take to barely scrape by in your business now, but what kind of business do you want? What's the vision? How do your business want to look in the future? And do you have the staffing? Can you afford the staffing to make that happen? And is the staff you've got now doing what they're best at? Not just you, but is the staff you've got doing what they're best at? So today we're going to run through pretty much exactly a bit of the run of what Glenn has gone through around your customer's journey. So what is it that your customer is going through when they're working? Yep. So they're our customer journey. So what does it look like now? What are the tasks that are involved in your customer journey? And the first thing you need to do is map that out. Okay. And we're gonna look at how you map that out. Right. We're gonna look at the tasks in that. We're gonna first look at the number one thing before we even start on your journey is looking at what it is that you're doing that doesn't need to be there in the first place. Because Glenn's just been talking about always focusing on tasks that give you profit and cash flow, right? Now, where do your profit and cash flow come from? Who's paying for it? The customer's paying for it. And what are they paying for? They're paying for value. So, and where in your process are you doing tasks, or your staff doing tasks that are value-adding activities? And what tasks are you doing or your staff doing that are non-value-adding activities? Because I guarantee you, no one's paying you for your non-value-adding activities. Some of them need to happen, right? But how do we reduce the time spent on them, reduce the money spent on them, and focus our time on the value-adding activities? So we're going to look at, what stuff we're going to get rid of, those that 80% that's wasting your time. And the next one there, Glenn, if you want to pop through. Yep. So we're going to look at the tools of your trade. Now, what are you using and how are you using it? I'm not talking about your hammers. I'm not talking about your trucks. Just to let you guys know, where I started, I did aerospace engineering at uni, but I've spent the last 16 years now. I started a removals business, and I ran up to 35 trucks in Australia, and I ran 14 trucks over in London for a while. I've still never been to the UK. Doing this all remotely through Teams, utilising systems. And then I realised about 5 years ago that where my strength lay was actually in the systems, and in helping other businesses to make sure that they're doing what they do best after they've got the strategy. And we're going to cover off the top 15 tasks that you're not doing that you'd love to be doing, but you've always said, geez, I don't have time, or they're on my to-do list, or geez, I can't afford someone to do that. And we're going to be covering those today. And then a bit how you can help kind of make that happen. So we're going to go to the first one. So mapping out your journey. Now, Glenn touched on, this is what we call the current state. All right, he touched on this journey, right? Now, the journey that we say we take the customers through, of course, we talk about the attract, which, of course, how do you bring them in? What are you doing there? Convert, of course, what tasks are there involved in the conversion? So that's everything from the phone calls you take in, the emails you've got going out, the quotes you're doing, the follow-ups, all those kind of tasks. Obviously, the delivery is not just about doing the job. It's doing the job, it's invoicing the job, it's collecting money from the job. It's whatever it takes to actually have that product delivered and paid for. And then the last but not least is delight. what are you doing once the job's done? Most people, not much. You got to get on to the next job. It's too much to do. And I think that's one of the first things that that misses out in business, but it's the first thing that will separate you from all your competition and will help that pricing strategy of yours be completely different from what's out there. So the first thing you want to do is literally put those things into columns. You get a bit of paper, or the best thing is get butcher's paper up on the wall, right? Put it up and get some Post-it notes and start to throw down on all those, what's happened, what are you doing to attract customers now? What kind of every single thing you need to do to convert. And I'm talking about all the bits and pieces, the forms you're using, the calls you're taking, the follow-ups, whatever you have to do to convert the jobs you're doing, all the stuff you have to do in delivery, the chasing of accounts, the invoicing, the reconciliations, the actual job you're doing, the forms you have to do out on the jobs. Some of you guys are out there having to comply with everything from CM3 to some of you guys are ISO, like whatever it is that you have to comply just in your industry, just for your license, just so you don't get done by some four-letter acronym that's out there chasing us guys, right? Not just the ATO. And then, of course, what are you doing at the moment after a job's done? Okay, so list them all out, right? That's the first thing. So that's the first thing I want you to do is list them all out. Now, look at those tasks and say, and these little things, I call them angry clouds. What are the tasks that hold up? What are the tasks that are taking a lot of time? You're bouncing around from one thing to another. What causes a barrier of moving that customer through that journey in the most efficient way possible? Is it chasing coin, right? Getting paid? Is it the quoting? Is it that you just got a lot of tire kickers? Is it making a lot of outbound calls and not getting answered? What is it in all those that's causing a barrier to moving that customer through that journey quickly and efficiently, right? So identify those, put a big star next to those ones that are there, right? Look at those tasks and those, have I written this task down because I'd like to do it, or is it actually getting done, right? Who's doing that task, and is it in their skill set? Have you got your sister-in-law doing your books, right, because she's available, right? Whereas she's actually brilliant on the phone. She could be out there doing some other stuff for you, right? Is that task bottlenecking the flow? Is there something there that's stopping it? As I said before, those angry clouds. Is it being done consistently? There's no point having something in there if it's ad hoc and sometimes it's done and sometimes it's not. Because as we all know, as Murphy says, it'll be the one time you don't do it that'll stuff you up. What are your biggest frustrations and causes you the biggest heartache there? And what do you wish was being done instead of that? Okay, and that's where we move to after you've listed that out, you want to list out what your future state. What is it that in the ideal scene, forgetting who's doing what, the staff you have, right? What task would you be doing in those that would be the task that would take that customer through, right? Getting it all the way through to the end, give them the most value for the least amount of effort. By the way, that's called profit. Most value for the least amount of effort and expense is profit. And that's exactly what Glenn was going on about before. So does the new task improve your customer net promoter score, as in the satisfaction you get and the referrals you get? Is it improving the value they're receiving? Does it reduce waste? Is that task helping you reduce your time being wasted, money being wasted, errors being made, leads being missed? Does it make the process faster and more efficient? What do we got next? Then does it improve your conversion rate? All right, so is that task where it sits in improving conversion rate? And most importantly, we didn't get in this business in order to be stressed and die early. Does it improve your life balance? Are you going to be, is doing that going to get you home? This is just an example. Yep, that's all right. You can go to the next one. Sorry, the last point there, Glenn, I'll just touch on that one, which is, does it help you measure those? Because there's absolutely no point in changing the way you do things if you're not measuring those KPIs that Glenn's talking about. You should be measuring your conversion rate, your NPS, Net Promoter Score. So that's the satisfaction rate of your customers, right? So if there's a task in there that helps you measure those, it's giving you value, okay? And then we'll move. So this is an example of what's an actual customer journey look like. This is in the removals business, right? This is what a customer journey in that business looks like, and where the green line, that's the ideal line of where we want to take people through, right? When people are moving off that into the orange, that's a chance for us to pull them back on course. And then the red is when we don't want them to go there. That's either when they want to cancel a booking, don't book us in, we can't contact them, or at the end of the job, as you can see, they're what we call a detractor. They are someone who will cause detrimental referral to our business. All right, and then some nice yellow ones that gives us some coin. Okay, so this is what a journey, and these are the kind of things that when I go out. If I love going out when someone like Glenn's already mapped some of this stuff out, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes if I go out there and this stuff's really messy, but this is the kind of stuff that Glenn will help you kind of map this out, right? But then all these tasks, someone needs to get these done, all right? And you got to look at the ones that you're not able to do, that you shouldn't be doing. Okay, so this is just an example of a customer journey, Oh, yep. So this is about taking us through that journey. So how do they find us? How do we quote and follow them up? How do we book them in? How do we ensure that the job that's going to happen is going to be the best job possible, and that we're making the most profit out of it? So if you're an electrician, are you calling up? Are you making sure that everything else is okay in the house? When's the last time the wiring was checked? What are you doing in there to make sure that when you get out there, you can raise the value you're giving that customer in that one visit you make? Okay, that's the pre-move or a pre-job follow-up, and of course in the delivery and delight aspect at the end. So that's usually how a customer solutions or delight at the end there. Okay, so again, obviously Pareto is a very popular guy, right? So we're going to be always looking at, because at the end of the day, you always want to get the most amount of value for the least amount of time. Keep talking about the same thing, which is choose out of those tasks, and I've just listed them out here, just some examples, right? What are the 20% of these we can get done now, all right, that is going to make the biggest results in your business? Just have a look at some of these ones, these tasks that we've got here in your, are you doing some questions to ask yourself? Actually look at some of these points. Are you active on LinkedIn? Are you actually looking for, and do you have a list of your whales, those customers that you want to get to? Are you actively pursuing and going down the role yourself of finding your ideal clients, right? Are you networking? All this stuff so have a look at those. What are those parts of the track that doing those will give you the biggest results? Convert. Are you following up on all your phone calls? Are you answering all your phone calls? What are you doing at 7 p.m. when someone calls? Is that you, or is a message being taken? An interesting fact is that between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night, statistically, there's a 3-time more likelihood that you're going to convert that job, because that's when the guy or the wife's come home and the wife said, "Oh, have you booked that Sparky?" Oh shit! And you call up. Hey, you got a quote? No. You got a quote? Yep. Good. Book it. Yes, honey, I've done it. That's between 4 and 7 p.m. Are you doing that? Are you taking weekend after hours calls? Have you set up an educational email or direct marketing campaign for your customers you've had before? Do you have a CRM that you're actually managing? Are you sending out cards to your old clients? Delivery. Have a look at all these tasks here. Your dispatch. Are you taking credit card payments, instant and deposits before the job happens? Are you auditing each job to make sure the quality's right? All this stuff in delivery, these are all the things you want to look at as to if they got done, would they make a big difference to you, both your client and your business? And of course, in the delight area, are you sending out birthday cards? Are you sending thank you gifts to your larger clients, coming on board or after completing a project? Are you having a happy call at the end to ask for testimonials and reviews from your happy clients and getting feedback from those who can give it to you? And of course, are you calling in 6 months to see how everything's going? So have a look at those and pick out those ones that are going to make the biggest impact for your business. And Glenn can absolutely help you to identify that. Now we're going to talk about tools. Now, the first rule about tools, it's not about the tool, right? So a tool is never going to make the difference between a good business and a bad business, right? But once you've got those systems in place, that should be able to be run by anything, paper, doesn't matter. You've got good people and good systems. It's not about the tools. But choosing the tools that match your future state guidelines. So after you've mapped your future state, what fits in there? What fits into your future state, right? Is there something off the shelf that actually fits the future state that you're working with? as in, does it do the things you need to do around your accounting, your lead follow-ups in your business? Obviously, if you're a removalist, for example, service mate doesn't do that. All right, electrician, it does, but so does Aeroflow and other stuff. So it's looking at all these things and say, what is it that's going to work with your workflow and your administration processes that you've worked out? And the other thing is shoot bullets, not cannonballs, right? So people look at this sometimes and I take them and they're like, oh yeah, it all looks great, let's do it. And so they go and make these big changes, right? And shooting bullets, not cannonballs. You're a boat, you pull up next to someone, right? You don't shoot your only cannonball before you know you're going to hit it. You shoot a bullet first. If it hits, great, let's go down that thing. And the number one thing that I want to tell you all when you're looking at this journey, don't look at yourself. You're not the one paying the bills. The customer's paying the bill. Always come back to your customer's journey. What is creating the value for them? And that's where you focus on, because that's where the profit is. And any of these tools that doesn't help you bring value to the customer isn't worth your while. Okay? Right, so I've just listed here the top 15 tasks you're probably not doing, right? And I'm definitely happy to send this out to anybody. These ones, these are the ones we've found that the clients that I've been dealing with lately, when they've done these early on in the piece, have made the biggest impact to both their delivery, their work-life balance, right? And of course their profitability. So I'm not going to go through these one by one, all right? But that's the kind of stuff that our team does as well, our VAs. So just tell you exactly what it is I do. Is I run a contact center in the Philippines. I provide staff in the Philippines that specialize in helping tradies, people in tourism industry and transport to get through those tasks, getting you back to that 20% of tasks that you should be doing, right, that are going to make the biggest impact on your business, and taking away the tasks that shouldn't, but making sure that your customer's journey doesn't sacrifice while you go do that. Because that's the biggest thing here is you can always go and focus on team leadership, strategy, your marketing, your capital, all right? But is your customer journey getting better or worse? Right. So the idea is once you've got it systemized and you can give it to anybody, give it to someone who costs a third of the price. And that's exactly what we provide, and obviously the management and support around that as well. So yeah, that's hopefully I've left you with some good juicy bits you can take back into your business. And yeah, thanks very much, Glenn, for the opportunity as well.
Yeah, good, James. It's fascinating, and look, it's just good to hear you reinforce a lot of the points I made there. But talk us through practically an example, say, of how a trade virtual assistant can send 20 handcrafted LinkedIn messages.
Perfect. All right. So which one's that one? That's right. So to give you an idea, right? So once you decide with you, Glenn. So I'll give you an example of a skip bin guy we work with, right? So and this particular situation with LinkedIn. So we identify what his ideal market was for him, who he needed, who he wanted to get in contact with, right? And so once we got that, he had Sales Navigator, which is a LinkedIn product. You got to pay for that, but well worth the money, right? Yeah. We made sure he got Sales Navigator. We jumped at one of the VA jumped into Sales Navigator, right? Went and identified all across Australia the companies that fit that profile to a T. Found the directors, the owners, the people in the right positions. Created that database. All right. Now, once we've got that database of people, they're in LinkedIn. Then the idea is, because it's about creating value again for that other person in LinkedIn. So we've got a bunch of different LinkedIn templates, stuff that we use, right? That's about giving value. It's a personal message that says, hey, I'd love to just have a chat, right, about how we can swap referrals, how I might be able to help you, you might be able to help me, and creating a bit of, oh yeah, it's worth having a chat, booking in there, then saying, great, and then saying, then that VA will contact the client directly and say, look, yep, this guy said he's He's wants to be in contact. Then only at that point, when again, it's making sure that our client, that the guy is doing what he does best. He's on LinkedIn sending out 50 messages. He's on LinkedIn or on the phone calling that one guy and saying g'day. Right?
Yep.
And that's that one that combines that 4, that getting those top 20, right? 3, updating that stuff, but also a little bit of starting to create that pipeline, right, of ideal clients of number 2. So it's a bit of a flow. And so when I go in and we start to look at these tasks, they do happen in a bit of a process. There's the first is, and look, the great thing is when I come in after kind of one of your clients, for example, is a lot of this stuff, they know more about, they've got their pricing strategy, but also their client strategy, right? Which is what we help them with. And so I can come in and just find and communicate with those guys. Well, the VA will find and communicate with those guys that you need to. And that's just in the attract section. And to be deadly honest, the attract and convert is actually one of the last things that usually gets done by the VAs. It's in there and it doesn't take a lot of time, that task. So we usually put it in the early days because it creates good value. But some of the stuff down lower around the making sure that we are getting the phone calls answered at the right times, doing a proper QA, QC, quality control, quality assurance on all jobs. So ensuring that service delivery is right. That's usually the stuff that gets done along with the obviously bookkeeping stuff in the first instance with their VA.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So you're saying a trade business owner deals with you and then you instruct the VA, or a trade business owner?
So pretty much their VA, they'll be wearing your cap, you're drinking out of your mug, right? I'll come in first, right? I always come in and do a discovery session because we need to make sure that the priorities are set right. Because otherwise what happens is if I just plonk you in front of a VA and you speak and there's like, what do I do, right? What do I do next? And unless there's a strategy in place for what tasks to get on with, then there's no point. So, but once I've come in and we've identified a bit of a rollout, we've done a bit of that, got those tasks, then yes, you will go deal directly with the VA. There's also what we call, it's a client success manager over there. And her job is to make sure that your KPIs match their training. So she's in charge of training and support. So that she'll make sure that they're getting trained up in your CRMs, in whatever it is you're doing, and that on a daily or weekly basis, you're getting reports based on your KPIs from your VA. But yes, absolutely. That person may as well be a secretary sitting on your front desk. They're effectively your staff, but they've got a team behind them to make sure that they are that they're performing. But yeah, they're yours, and they're all voice trained. They've got fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the Q&A. We've opened the Q&A and Tim Martin's posted a question there. Can you see that?
Look, feel free to give a couple of our clients calls and you can have a bit of a chat to them. But they're all so in the Philippines. Working for an Australian call center is kind of one of the highest paid jobs, but it also requires the highest communication skills. English is a first language, but it does have an American accent. We actually have a speech coach that helps reduce that accent. But it's not just the accent; it's also being able to just get rid of some of those typical Filipino things that kind of annoy customers. Some of the sirs, the madams, the R's instead of those kind of little bits. But yes, they're definitely going to sound. They're from the Philippines. They're going to have an American twang. The idea is, and this is what ends up happening with clients is, look, they'll start off with because they're hesitant about the communication skills. So they'll start just communicating with their VA and having them do non-voice activities, like I've mentioned. But then once they realize that at 5 p.m. at night when someone's calling in, if you can give them the value that they're looking for, even if the accent's there, right? That's what they want. They want to get hold of you quick, and they want to get a price, and they want to get it booked in. And speaking of that, they definitely don't sound. They're not like speaking to an Indian call center where it's very hard to understand or anything like that. They're easy to understand. They speak perfectly good English. They just got a twang, obviously.
Yeah, it's horses for courses. So someone can make a call, make a booking, get the task done.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the person who should be making those outbound calls to those core customers, that's you.
Of course, yeah.
And that's never going to change.
No, quite right. They're the $10,000 calls. You just need someone else making the low dollar ones. Yeah, good. Exactly. Anyone else got any questions for James?
Thanks for that, Tim. That was a good question, though.
Yeah, look, I think that's fascinating product, and we're going to obviously have this recorded on our YouTube for clients to log in and have a look at what you do. But let's just wrap things up here, guys. Obviously, your results are a lagging indicator of your habits. If you're finding that you're not getting the results you'd like, there's a reason for that.